Okay, one of you guys is Adam, and who was the other guy?
Okay, so Bob, I'm Adam. I'm the host of the show, but I asked my buddy Jack to dial in as well and join in the conversation because he's a massive fan as well. So I hope you're okay with that.
Jack, sure.
Yeah,
I can see that he's a massive fan based on.
He's a bigger fan than me, clearly. So thank you so much, Bob. Honestly, like Jack said before, same goes for me. This is when I started the podcast a couple of years ago, your name was very high on the list of guests that I wanted to get on the show. And you're definitely a bucket list guest. Grown up with the movies.
Thank Michael Clasteren, because he has highest regard for you, and he said, "Oh, you need to be talking to Adam." So he's the reason that this is happening.
He's a good guy. I love Michael, and yes, I have a lot to thank him for. This isn't the first time he's helped me out with a podcast. So if you're watching, Michael, thank you very much. So Bob, say Jack and I had a DeLorean time machine and we wanted to maintain it, keep it running nice, keep it going well. Could you recommend any literature that would be able to help us out with that?
Very, very nice segue there. Yes, as just by coincidence, we're talking about that book right there. Yeah. The Doc Brown's Haynes DeLorean Guide, which tells you almost everything you need to know.
And I like how
cleverly decided to redact certain information to make sure that the secrets of time travel do not fall into the wrong hands.
Yeah. And this is the first Haynes manual I've ever owned, Bob. I'm not a petrol head, but this is so much more than a Haynes manual, isn't it?
Right.
It's we've got a nice little introduction from Doc Brown. We've got some Doc Brown's journals from 1946 and 1985, which is crammed full of some nice little Easter eggs as well. Not just to do with Back to the Future. Whose idea was this? Was it your idea? Was it Joe's idea? Or did Haynes come to you?
The idea for the book actually originated with Insight Editions.
Right.
Chris Prince, who was our book editor there, and he was the editor on Michael Clasteren's book, Back to the Future: The Ultimate Visual History.
Yeah.
And he called me up one day, and he said, "Look, we've done these Haynes guides on Marvel vehicles and on Ghostbusters, and the DeLorean is just a natural to take this treatment." So he sent me these books, and I looked through them, and I thought, yeah, this is pretty cool. And they had some little Post-it notes in there in the Ghostbusters manual from the characters. So I said, well, what if we incorporated Doc Brown's journals into this? So Doc can be talking about how he invented time travel, how he invented the DeLorean, and we can also fill in some of the holes that fans have wanted to know. What happened, for example, when Doc left Marty at his house at the end of the first movie and headed to 2015, and then 10 minutes later he's back saying something's got to be done about your kids. What actually happened there? How long was he gone, and so forth? And what happened when he first went back to the Old West, and how did he set himself up as a blacksmith? And all the machinations that went to hiding the car in the Delgado mine and everything like that. So all that stuff is in this book, in addition to all the tech geek stuff where everybody wants to know, okay, so from now on, we don't have to call the hockey puck shaped things that are on the side of the car, those hockey puck shapes. They're now the particle accelerator canisters. The unit that's on the very top of the car where the bolts shoot out, that's the tachyon pulse generator. So Joe Walser and I took an afternoon and we went through a whole bunch of the parts and we came up with names for everything. And we thought about, well, okay, what would this thing actually do? Does this relate to the time machine? Does it relate to the nuclear reactor? And there is an actual logic to what all the parts are and what they do.
Yeah.
Whether when you build this yourself in your garage and you do all this stuff, whether your time machine will function as Doc's did, that's another.
Well, I don't think it would, because like you said before, I really love in the introduction, I don't want to spoil the book for people who are going to read it, but in the introduction, like you say, he explains why there's no patent for the flux capacitor. He also explains that some of the critical information in the book is false. Yes. So that we can't build a time machine.
Right.
I actually texted Joe if he wanted to get involved with this conversation, but he never answers his texts.
Joe's been dealing with some personal issues, I believe, and he just has been kind of under the radar for a while.
Yeah, I know. He's been mega busy with this. I know that.
Let me just give him a shout out, because this book would not be anything like it is without what Joe brought to the party here. Yeah. I mean, he knows more about the DeLorean probably than any person on Earth. Yeah. And all the technical illustrations, all the computer illustrations, he created all this stuff with his team of guys. And I will say that it truly exceeded my expectations, the quality of what he turned in. Yeah. It just knocked everybody's socks off.
It's amazing. And I can remember him sort of talking last year. He said something on Facebook that he'd been working on something really, really hard. And it turned out to be this. And he's done an absolutely incredible job, because it's not just the time machine, the DeLorean time machine in here. There's the time train, hoverboards, and there's other stuff as well in the book. So it's incredibly, incredibly comprehensive and detailed, isn't it?
You wouldn't expect anything less if it has the name Back to the Future on it, right?
Exactly, yeah. And you mentioned, but things like, you've been spoiling us, Bob, with things like this over the last little while. You mentioned Michael's book before, which was revised to include the musical and other things in it as well. So we've been really spoilt as fans. When does this book come out? Because it's not out yet, is it?
The book is released. The official release date is March 30th. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's available. I didn't see it listed on Amazon UK the last time I went on there, and that was about a week or 10 days ago. Right. So whether that's going to be rectified or not, I don't know, or whether the UK fans are going to have to order it from the States. Somebody ought to be listening to this and thinking, oh, yeah, wait a minute, we got to get a shipment of those books over to the UK and make it easy for everybody over there.
Well, I hope it does come on Amazon UK, because the postage from the States
I know
it's crazy. It's very, very expensive, shall we say?
Yeah, I'll stir the pot on that a little bit and see if there's anything I can do on my end to light a fire under their butts.
Have you got? Yeah. Sorry, Jack.
So yeah, Bob. I mean, even me as a super fan, I'm still fascinated that this far along after the trilogy, there's still stuff that comes out that it's just so new, so current, and there's still stuff to be found out about the trilogy, like with this new book. So what, from my observations, kind of post the movies, there's been a very clear division between kind of canon material, which is like the comic books, the Telltale game, and the sort of visual history, which is more kind of factual. Would you say that this is a sort of crossover between both? And what was that deliberate? That's
Oh,
that's
sure.
kind of
Yeah, yes. And in fact, when you read this book, you'll find that a lot of the ideas and stories and so forth that were established in the comic books and in the Telltale game are here.
nice.
It was in the Telltale game that we decided that Doc Brown's father would be a judge, and that is carried over into this. And if you read the story in the comic books about what happened when Doc first arrived in 2015, those elements are in the book too. So as you know, I mean, I've been supervising everything, of course. So as we put all this together, yes, it does make sense for us to have, sort of a canon, if you will, a specific sort of through line for this is how this happened, and this is how that happened, and this is how Marty met Doc, and so forth. This is how Doc got the plutonium. All those things which fans want to know, and it is, as I tell people, it is as much canon as anything can be when you have a malleable space-time continuum.
Yeah, that's fair.
Bob, how much? So you talk there about, that there's quite an appetite from the fans, isn't there, to know this and to know that and why that happened and why this happened. Does that influence your thinking when you're working on projects like this? And does that add a bit of pressure in case you don't deliver?
Well, I've never been worried about not delivering.
Yeah.
It's just to say, okay, this is what's on fans' minds, and a lot of this is the same stuff. I mean, the question about, well, gee, if they hid the DeLorean, if Doc hid the DeLorean in the Delgado mine, why didn't they go back to the mine and get the gasoline out of it, right? And it's like, wait a minute. I mean, I keep getting asked that question, and it's answered in the book. But the answer, again, for those that don't know, the two-part answer. One part is, if you're going to put a car in storage for months, much less 70 years, you drain all the fluids out of the car. As you ruin the car if you leave all the gasoline, the oil, and the brake fluid inside. You have to drain it all out, or the car is going to rust, corrode, and go to hell. So that's the automotive answer, and the temporal physics answer is that let's say, for the sake of argument, that the gasoline was in there, but if Doc were to go back to the mine, and while they were digging out the DeLorean, he broke a component on it, that would create a time paradox, and the consequences could be disastrous.
Bob, that question, and Michael Clasterin, I'll tell you, that question is asked on the Back to the Future Facebook pages every day.
I'm sure.
Every day.
Go ahead. Cut that clip out of me here. Put it on there. Over and over and over again. Oh yeah, of course, duh.
Yeah, we'll clip that bit and pin it to the top of the Facebook pages.
Straight from the source.
Yeah, exactly. Straight from the source. Bob, talking about DeLoreans, there's a new TV show coming out, isn't there? I saw a trailer for this the other day on Discovery Plus. I think it's coming out on.
Yes. Yeah, that's a new streaming service that Discovery has. I don't know if they're going to run it on the regular channel or not. They were so excited with how the show turned out that they rushed it. They advanced the post-production schedule to get it out.
All right.
I believe it's coming out on March the 15th is the date, and it's really entertaining. It's a lot of fun. the host of the Expedition series on Discovery, a guy named Josh Gates. He's traveled all over the world, going to archaeological sites, going to all kinds of interesting places. And they decided they wanted to do a Back to the Future show where they were going to try to track down all of the DeLoreans that were used in the movie. So that's sort of the through line. And then there's another part of the show, which is the idea is they need to get one to donate to the Michael J. Fox Foundation to raise money for Parkinson's research. So it's a 4-part series. There's a lot of cameos and guest appearances by folks, including yours truly in the first episode. And Christopher Lloyd is the co-host with Josh. He's terrific in it. He's really funny. He's playing Doc Brown, and people are going to have a great time with this.
So is Chris actually playing Doc Brown in the show?
Well, yeah, it's kind of a gray area.
All right, okay.
I can't exactly explain it, because I can't. Not because I'm not allowed to, because it's as I say, we have the very malleable space-time continuum where anything can happen, including Josh Gates running into not only Christopher Lloyd but Dr. Brown. So, take that one and have a few beers and see what happens when you wake up tomorrow morning.
What's the name of the show?
It's called Expedition Back to the Future.
Expedition Back to the Future. And I was reading about it earlier on. Like you say, you're in it. You feature in it, Bob. Michael J. Fox is in it too.
Yeah, he's in the 4th episode.
Leah's in it.
He's in there. James Tolkien, Mr. Strickland is in there. Don Fullilove, Mayor Goldie Wilson, and Harry Waters Jr. All those guys are in it. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping that it's being shown here in the UK. I believe we do get Discovery Plus. I think it's on Sky. Over here.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on TV, if it's streaming only. I mean, if it's streaming only, anybody should be able to get it any place in the world. And if your service doesn't allow you to stream like that, kick up the old VPN and tell them your device is coming from New York City, right?
Yeah, looking forward to that. So that's out in a couple of weeks' time. Really excited about that. And what I was going to say was, I'm not going to ask you about this because I know you get asked about it a million times, and it's a well worn path, about sequels and reboots and all the rest of it. But the reality is that we get our Back to the Future fix from the books, from the comics, from the TV shows, from the games. We don't need or want a Back to the Future or a reboot. And a lot of the fan base who I sort of interact with are all of the same opinion. We don't, the trilogy's great as it is. We don't need any more. And we're fixing all these various different ways. And one of those ways, which has been absolutely superb, and count myself very lucky to have seen it in person, is the musical that was on in Manchester. It was last year.
Yeah, 1 year ago.
Yeah, 1 year ago. And it was February the 20th, I believe, was the very first night.
That's right.
And it was sensational, amazing. Not just the show, but the buzz around it. There was a lot of fans there, a lot of super fans from all around the world were there. So we sold out every bit of merchandise in 48 hours. They could not believe it. I think Jack bought most of it.
Yep, I've got.
But the music was so spectacular. Whose idea was that? Where did that come from? The music, because I remember reading about it and thinking, I would never have thought of that in a million years.
The idea of doing a musical actually came from Bob Zemeckis' wife, Leslie.
Right.
This was way back in 2005. They saw The Producers on Broadway,
Right.
which is based on a Mel Brooks movie.
Yeah.
And she said to Bob, boy, this was really good. Would you ever think about doing turning Back to the Future into a musical? And Bob said, hey, let me mention to Bob Gale and see what he thinks. And I said, yeah, that sounds like that. Let's explore that. So that's how it started. So we have to go way back to 2005 for that. And it took us this long to get it off the ground because, like all things Back to the Future, if it's not going to be great, we don't want it out there.
Yeah.
We've had the experience of the notorious 8-bit Nintendo game cartridge. One of the worst video game experiences in the history of video games. And
not as bad as E.T. though. Not
well,
as bad as the E.T. game.
E.T. had at least a better excuse because they wanted to grind it out in 6 weeks, which is ridiculous. But
yeah,
nevertheless, seeing bad Back to the Future merchandise and tie-ins is one of those things that, it's like a stab wound right into my chest. So I'm going to make sure any way I can to ensure that anything that says Back to the Future on it is quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bob, can I just follow up on that? You said, so obviously it was conceived around kind of 2005, and then kind of 15 years later we get the musical. But so having been at the premiere night, and one of the best experiences I've ever had of theatre, definitely, or the best experience. And I don't think I'm throwing any spoilers out there to say that the time travel sequence is something that it blows all away. And I think there were tears in the auditorium. It was incredible. So that visual, just achieving that was, that was a mammoth task in itself. So was part of that waiting for that perfection? That was the length of time it took, so that you were having that kind of spectacle on stage. The tech just wasn't there before.
Well, part of it was, Bob and I were total novices when it came to, musical theater. We didn't know how to mount a show. We didn't know who did what. We didn't know who was important, who wasn't important. So it took us a long time to find a producer that we were comfortable with. And it turned out to be Colin Ingram, who's based in London. And our lyricist, Glenn Ballard, who had worked with Bob Zemeckis on Polar Express, had worked with Colin on Ghost, the musical, and came to us and he said, I think I found the producer who would be perfect for Back to the Future. So we met with Colin and we liked him a lot. And then the next quest was to find the right director. And we had a false start there, thinking that we were actually going to have the show ready for 2015. But there were creative differences with the first director that we hired. So we took 2 giant steps back, and Bob, Al Silvestri, Glenn, and I really put our heads together and said, we really need to take a more active part in controlling what this show is going to be. So we spent a long time working through a version of what we thought the show should be. We put a showcase on in 2017, I believe it was. Invited Colin over. We taped it. Colin had the tape. So this was a bunch of professional performers doing about 7, 8, 9 songs, most of which are actually still in the show. And Colin could take that around and show that to potential directors. And finally, it fell in the hands of John Rando, who's based in New York. And Rando absolutely got it. He flew out to California with Colin. Glenn and I had a meeting with John. John's enthusiasm was through the roof. We knew he had the right attitude. He had the right sense of humor. So we hired him. And then then it all picked up steam, starting in, this was in, I guess, February 2018 is when John came onto the project. And then we just, kept going and going and going and going. And what has been one of the most rewarding experiences of putting the show on, and why I think it's so good, is that everybody that we hired on the show, they're all Back to the Future fans, right?
Yeah.
So, our production designer, our visual effects team, our lighting guys, cast, of course, they all were kids when Back to the Future came out. So they loved the movie, and they're thinking to themselves, wow, this is an opportunity for me to work and help present this in a format that nobody has ever seen before, and it's going to blow people away. And they're also thinking, I'm not going to be the guy that messes up Back to the Future. So they're going to give 150, 200%, because they don't want to be that guy say, yeah, the show was great, except for that stupid damn thing.
Bob, why, who decided Manchester was the place to debut it?
Well, this was kind of the model that Colin and Glenn used in Ghost. They premiered Ghost in Manchester. They said the Manchester audiences are fantastic. They will tell us everything we need to know to make sure that we've got this thing on the right track. It gave us a chance to put in front of an enthusiast audience, and also to just be able to see, okay, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? So, for example, the version that you saw on February 20th, the version that we had on press night 3 weeks later, is about 15 minutes shorter than the version that you saw, because watching it over and over again with an audience, saying, oh, this is a little slow, we can make this better, we can fix this transition, and that's part of the process of theater, which we don't get to do that in movies. You take your best shot, and you get to do some re-editing after your first sneak preview, and maybe if something didn't work at all, you go back and you reshoot something. But we were in a position to say, well, let's try a different joke here. That didn't get the kind of laugh that we wanted. And John would say, Bob, think of a different joke here. So I'd come up with a joke, and we'd test it the next night. And if it worked better, we'd leave it. And if it didn't, say, think of something else. And so
I mean, I can remember, reading about the musical, and that it was tickets were going to go on sale, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Oh, it's in Manchester. What? it's here in the UK. How lucky are we that this is where Back to the Future the musical is going to be debuted. So lucky.
We love the UK fans, and one of the convincers for me was Secret Cinema in 2014. And that was, I came over for that. I went 3 nights in a row. The fan enthusiasm for that, I couldn't believe it. And then in 2015, when we were celebrating the 30th anniversary, they actually re-released Back to the Future in theaters in the UK. And it played for 2 weeks. And it made several million more quid for us there.
Well, you're welcome.
Those Brits are nuts. Of course,
I can remember.
We have to expect that.
In 2015, I think it was at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, was Back to the Future with the live symphony orchestra.
Right, in Edinburgh, yes.
Yeah, and my wife and I went to that, and I'm not ashamed to say I wept at that experience, because it was so fantastic. Honestly, it was It was perfect. And when I came out at the end, I was on the edge of my seat all the time, and I think I was watching the orchestra more than the movie. And it was just so emotional. And I came out afterwards and I said to my wife that there's no other way to watch that movie. It's the perfect way to watch that movie. It absolutely blew me away. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, Adam, when I saw it that way the first time, for me, it was like the first time I saw the movie. That's how electric it was. It was mind-boggling. And this, believe it or not, was at the Hollywood Bowl, and there were 15,000 people there.
Wow.
Biggest audience, to my knowledge, that ever saw Back to the Future at one time. It was, and you know, knock on wood, we'll get, when we get the theaters reopen, we'll have concert venues reopen. Back to the Future in concert will be back on the circuit, and
great.
Everybody get a chance to experience that too.
Yeah. You know, you're saying that the musicals is coming back to London. I had my tickets for the first night again. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get there though.
Well, we don't know exactly what the dates are going to be at this point. But my understanding is that if you have tickets for the opening date, whatever the new opening date is going to be, those tickets will still be good. Because that's I asked that question. That's what I was told. You know, it's not really my department to be absolutely 100% sure about that. But believe me, everybody associated with the show is totally we understand why people buy a ticket for opening night. And so the thinking is, hey, if you bought a ticket for opening night and opening night changes, it should still be honored on opening night. So, you know, knock on wood, we will be able to post a new schedule in the next couple of weeks, and you will still be able to get that opening night experience.
Excellent.
That's excellent.
That's good to know.
Bob, can I just ask, you know, the casting of the musical, it's just so on point, it's incredible, and just there's obviously so much work going into getting these actors to play these roles. It's just, you couldn't, having seen the musical, you couldn't imagine other people playing those roles. Are all the cast returning for the London, and then are they there for the foreseeable future, or?
All the principal cast, yes. There's a few members of the ensemble that will not be back. A couple of them have gotten, two of them, as a matter of fact, have gotten really nice gigs in Frozen the musical. Certain people have other commitments, and but in terms of, you know, Marty, Doc, George, Lorraine, Goldie, Jennifer, Biff, they're all going to be back. They're all going to be back. Linda and Dave, yep, they'll be back too.
Good to know. That's great.
And
Mr. Strick, him too, yeah.
What is what is the? Have any of the cast? Did any of the cast from the movies see the show?
No, we had planned to get some of them over, but you know, once we'd hoped we were going to get Christopher Lloyd over for press night and get Claudia Wells over sometime in April or May, but you know, COVID obviously interfered with all those sort of plans. People that planned to come over for the States for press night, they didn't come over because by that time people were too concerned about COVID to want to take that risk. So we're looking forward to getting the cast to come over, because I know Huey Lewis wants to come over for it, and everybody wants to see it.
Yeah, it's something I keep seeing mentioned on the sort of Back to the Future forums is people wondering if there's any plans to, you know, release a Blu-ray version of the musical, or you know, a CD of the music or something like that.
Well, yes, there will be a soundtrack CD eventually. We have, obviously, the studios have have to reopen so that it can be recorded, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that is definitely in the works. As far as putting it out on video, we're in no big hurry to do that.
No.
You've seen it. You understand why you
Yeah.
need to be there. You need to be
Absolutely.
there to have this experience. And we're just worried, yeah, well, people watch it on video, they're not going to go to the theater. No, you got to go see this in the theater. Maybe
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8 years from now, we might think differently about
Yeah.
that. But for the foreseeable future, this is the theatrical experience that
Yeah.
you must have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
100% agree.
the experience was made even better, Bob, because it wasn't until the show, the musical actually finished. I realised that yourself and Alan Silvestri were sitting behind me. I was actually mooching around to see if anything was going on backstage, trying to be a little bit cheeky. But then all of a sudden it was like the people were leaving.
Now, wait,
and all of a sudden
were you the guy that picked my pocket? I'm kidding.
You
I'm
got us.
kidding.
You got us.
Nobody picked my pocket.
People were leaving, but then all of a sudden it was like Jurassic Park. Everybody went like that, and I said, "What's happened there?" And my pal turned around and said, "Oh, Bob Gale and Alan Silvestri are over there." So that was it. I was straight over, and I was giddy as a school kid with my program, waiting to get it signed. So that was fantastic as well. You were really generous with your time, signing things for people, and it was an outstanding night. Outstanding night. So great.
Well, can't wait to be back there to do it again at the Adelphi Theatre in London.
Yeah, in London. Can't wait. Absolutely can't wait.
We're both part of the fan group on Facebook, and during the Manchester run, literally every night someone was posting a picture with yourself. It was like Bob's here tonight. Bob's here tonight. It seemed to every single night you were in the audience. Was that conscious?
I was, yeah. Oh yeah. No, we're still refining it every night, and I was there. And every night I would sit someplace else in the auditorium because I wanted to see, what does this look like from the balcony? What does this look like, the very highest seats? Are there things here that I'll see that we need to fix so that everybody, wherever they're seated, gets as good of a Back to the Future experience as possible. So I'm always thinking about the audience, making sure that folks have the best possible time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think by about week 3 it was common knowledge that Bob's going to be somewhere, so it was Spot Bob. Every night it was Spot Bob. Where is he? And that was part of the fun.
So musical aside, Bob, what is there anything else in the future for Back to the Future? Anything else in the pipeline?
Netflix has filmed a show. They have a series called The Movies That Made Us.
Oh yes.
And they did Ghostbusters and Die Hard and Dirty Dancing and Home Alone for the first season. So this summer they're going to do Back to the Future as an episode of their second season. So we filmed that, and that ought to be pretty enjoyable, just the same as the first season was.
And yeah, I love that show, and I'm friends with a guy who does that show on Facebook, and he did drop me a little cheeky hint that there was something in the works. So looking forward to that. Anything else? Any books? Can we look forward to any more books? Or we like our toys as well. What action figures? My wife calls them dolls. I call them action figures.
There's the Back to the Future Transformer.
Oh yeah.
Which is a really cool toy, I must say. I don't know when that hits the market. The COVID crisis disrupted their supply chains for that. But it's a DeLorean that converts into a transformer, and the chest of the robot is the flux capacitor. it's very well done.
You can't
So
go wrong.
that,
You can't
that's
go
a
wrong
lot
with that.
that's a lot of fun. And boy, after that, I mean, we're focused on really the musical is the primo thing
Yeah.
that we want to get going. And then once we have it up and running again in London, then we want to look at getting it on an international tour, bringing it over to Broadway, New York, and having that become a worldwide phenomena too. So
Yeah.
that's about as far into the future as my thinking takes me right now.
So Ian. There's a person here called
I
Ian.
forgot.
I know you nearly forgot. You'd have been in trouble. Ian, who did the Doc Brown brain analyzer for the musical, the prop that he built.
Right.
Well, he's used his time quite constructively over lockdown. I'm not sure if you saw this. Hopefully I can share a screen.
Oh wow! My goodness,
Yep,
that's
full,
fantastic.
Full scale.
Wow. How big is that? That's full size, right?
Full scale.
Full size,
1:1.
yeah.
Wow.
So yep, that was built over lockdown last year.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's Ian and Mike from DeLorean and Prop Hire.
Mhm.
They have done, and they put on Facebook last week.
Guys, that is absolutely incredible.
They put on Facebook last week that they weren't really planning on doing the interior, but lockdown got extended, so they have.
Yeah, I know. It's like eating those crisps, Once you start, if you end up finishing the bag, whether you wanted to or not.
Yep, that's it. Once you pop, you can't stop. But yeah, they have a website. I think it's Time Travel Train. If you Google that, and on Facebook as well, there's a lot more pictures and video of the full thing.
So where is that? I'm not on Facebook. I don't do social media. So anybody who's trying to find me and thinks that you found me on Facebook, it's not me.
Good to know. I'll try and find it. It's on Facebook. It's got its own website. Just try and find the exact address for you.
What I can do is, Bob, I'll find.
Where does it actually exist? What part of the UK is this in?
Where's Ian based? Is it?
Oh, I don't know.
Is it Manchester?
Is it Manchester?
Yeah,
I think he's in Manchester.
Wow,
Yeah.
this should have been at the Science Museum where we had our press night party. Of course, it wasn't finished at that time, right?
Yeah, that's
True.
true.
But you can. I'm sure they'll manage to get it down to London if you can find a space for it.
Well, yeah, I think that's kind of that would be unbelievable to have that down there.
Yeah, I think they would be more than happy to do that. So I'm struggling to find it on Google here just now, but Adam, if you could send on the link.
Yeah, I'll send Eric at Insight a link to the website, Bob, and he can forward it on to you if you want to have a look. Great. Listen, Bob, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've been after you for a little while to get you on the podcast. I'm so pleased, with Michael's help, of course. So pleased to finally get you.
This was the primo time to do it because we had a lot to talk about, a lot to promote, and I'm sure that once the show is up and running again in London, we'll do this again. And we'll convince any slackers out there who haven't tickets that they need to get their butts in gear and get themselves down to the West End in London and have the musical theatrical experience that they will never have the likes of again.
Sure thing.
Absolutely.
And good luck with the book as well. If you speak to Joe, give him my best.
I will, and I'm going to call the publisher right now and say, why don't we have this thing for sale in the UK? So we'll see. We'll see whether I have any pull or not. Right.
Thank you so much, Bob. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much, Adam.
Yep.
Jack, good to talk to
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
See you in the future.
I sincerely hope so. All the best.
Okay. Bye-bye.